From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh, it disgusted me. I craved the strength and certainty of steel. I aspired to the purity of the blessed machine. Your kind cling to your flesh, as if it will not decay and fail you. One day the crude biomass that you call the temple will wither, and you will beg my kind to save you. But I am already saved. For the machine is immortal. Even in death, I serve the Omnisire.
Hey guys, welcome back to Warhammer 40k, a universe where humanity's technological development has gone completely ass backwards. And today, we will be talking about the very reason as to why that happened. The Adeptus Mechanicus, an entire faction that not only loved the idea of steampunk, but that they would embrace the steampunk look by literally becoming it. Let's get into the lore.
Why is all of the meat bothering me today?
The Mechanicus can trace its lineage all the way back to the first settlers of Mars, those who walked all over the Red Planet to mark it out for colonization and terraforming. The myth goes, they walked so long and such distances that they replaced the bloody stumps that were their legs with robotic ones.
Time to upgrade!
No! No! Mars was soon made into an industrial world, its whole worth becoming dockyards, manufacturing of vehicles, goods, and other services. But then came the Age of Strife, a time where humanity's empire collapsed and all the colonies were cut off from each other. Mars itself fell into disarray and civil war, but eventually, a religion would rise out of the broken foundries of Mars. The Cult of Mars. A cult that worships a being known as the Omnisire took over Mars. That's beliefs had them throw away progress and innovation and the sanctity of flesh. They believed that nothing short of complete and total encasement in metal was salvation.
Join the occult, Dad!
Then, 5,000 years later, the Emperor and his Imperium would arrive on Mars, and both sides would come to an agreement. The Mechanicus would work with the Imperium to create their weapons, ships, and other technologies, and the Imperium would grant the Mechanicus autonomy to police itself and to keep its religion. However, this was a dangerous game, as some of the Mechanicus would begin to whisper that the Imperium was being unfair to them and hiding away ancient technologies that the cult itself worshipped. Then, near the end of the Imperium's campaign, called the Great Crusade, a campaign to reunite all of humanity's lost colonies, the Emperor's son, Horus, would begin the Horus Heresy, a civil war that engulfed all of the Imperium, as well as the Mechanicus. This civil war led to a split in the cult. Those who sided with Horus were known as the Dark Mechanicum, while the other side believed that the Emperor himself was the Omnisire and remained the Mechanicus, which would lead to the modern Mechanicus we see in Warhammer 40k. But after the heresy was done, and with over 10,000 years of mechanical decay, the Mechanicus continues to churn out weapons of war for the Imperium, while also exploring and trying to find ancient technologies that might help in the Imperium's failing wars. Yeah, good luck with that. Alright, that's enough lore. You're here for the army. Let's get into it.
Activate to start EXE medium style. Kick.
The Mechanicus is an army that focuses on moving, then holding the line, then moving again. The whole army loves to have absolute control over the board and spacing your opponent out. Mechanicus focus on this because of their special ability called Doctrina. The Doctrina focuses on either holding still for a turn and improving your armor and accuracy, or being able to move further at the cost of only being able to shoot normally and making your armor worse. But now, let's focus on the first part of your army, the Skitari.
Access denied.
Skitari are your main infantry force, coming in ranged and close combat variants. but they all share the common theme of being light infantry. Your Skitarii are a better version of shooting guardsmen, but are just as fragile as them. Sure, you can buff up their defenses, but that comes at the cost of your movement. The advantage of your Skitarii is that they are cheap, come in large numbers, and have good shooting and close combat attacks, as well as having abilities that make it easier to hurt your enemies, or hinder your opponent's ability to hold objectives and defensive positions. Your Skitarii characters also support your infantry in this job. Your marshals give their units rerolls and allow you to spam strategies that have already been expended, while your archaeologist protects your infantry by forcing your opponent's deep striking units farther away, while improving your troops' ability to hold an objective. Though your infantry lacks in defensive toughness, they make up for it with flexible abilities, board control, and really good shooting.
Nanomachines, son! They harden in response to physical trauma.
The more elite forces of your army are where all that toughness went. You can forget speed with these guys. These units are slow, well-armored, and pack all the damage your infantry lacks. You can supplement them with multiple models named the Tech Priest Dominus, who give them extra protection from damage, while the Manipulus gives your robotic units automatic wounds and a better invulnerable save. The Cataphrons are built to either murder infantry or tanks, and are tough to take down, but otherwise aren't very complex. Now, let's talk about the biggest killer that requires its own individual guy. The Castellans and their buddy, the Datasmith.
Observation. This is a great opportunity for slaughter.
The Castellans are your giant robots and are built for either punching or shooting, or as of 10th edition, both. Note, if you take one gun fist and one punchy fist, you lose out on re-rolling failed wound rolls, so watch out. These guys are extremely tough and devastating for your army, as they can reliably kill elite infantry and vehicles. But their fun ability is that on a saving roll of 6, they send damage right back at their attackers. But what about the Datasmith? Don't worry, he's not a tumor that hangs onto the squad and drags them down. He improves them while they protect him. Once per turn, the Datasmith can either give the unit more shots or attacks, or improve the toughness of the unit. This can make them go from toughness 9 to 10, which is bloody huge when it comes to being shot at, as the chances of your opponent getting weapons that can wound the robots on 2s and 3s are extremely low. Those are Titan-grade weapons that not a regular game of 40k is going to have. Though these robot units are slow, they are extremely tough and dangerous, and will usually take up the majority of space in your army.
He's forklift certified!
For an army of engineers and mechanics, you sure do have a very limited vehicle pool. But that doesn't mean they're not dangerous. Your tanks usually tend to be bipedal walkers or quadrupedal walkers. You can put these vehicles in squadrons as well, and they do really good work at hunting down other tanks. Dune crawlers march over terrain being slow, but tough tank hunters, while your Dune riders are light and heavy hitting tank hunters, moving into proper positions to snipe enemy tanks or monsters, or closing the gap and impaling enemy walker units. Of course, you also have transports that assist in getting your slower infantry up to the front, whether by ground or air, making your army really good at securing the field and getting your infantry into key positions, or reinforcing parts of the line that are buckling. Your vehicles may be dedicated to the sole purpose of vehicle hunting more often than not, since they excel in the job way better than any other vehicle in Warhammer.
Logic dictates otherwise.
If you watched my Ultramarines video, you saw I made a joke about how the Ultramarines have 10 named characters, while Mechanicus and Leagues of Votann only have 1. Well, here he is. Belisarius Cawl, the guy who made the Emperor's great work his bitch, and is considered a tech heretic by his fellow engineers. Cawl, like the Silent King and Roboot Gullyman, gets to hand out one of 3 buffs every turn, ranging from rerolls to making units harder to hit, but Cawl has changed with 10th edition, becoming something of a murder machine that is impossible to attack when his allies are nearby, thanks to the independent operative special rule. With a deadly shooting attack with his solar atomizer and his axe, his maul, and extra limbs that will tear through infantry, not to mention a commander that refuses to die by regenerating 1d3 wounds a turn. Call went from being a decent commander in previous editions to a pretty good one that most Mechanicus players should think of taking.
Even in death, I serve the Omnisire.
And that's the Mechanicus, a steampunk army focused on board control and switching from extreme hold ground actions or fast-moving assaults. Sure, your infantry may be fragile and your other units may be slow, but the quality of those units shooting and the toughness of your robo units makes up for any shortcoming that the army might suffer from. Granted, it's a sad day that the army of engineers have lost a lot of ways to repair their units, but the characters make up for it by being able to make the units they join way deadlier and way harder to put down. Thanks for watching, and when we come back here, we will be keeping secrets, preparing the wings for war, and seeking redemption. The Dark Angels. See you next time.